Hello and welcome to Celebrating Cinema, a podcast for the love of cinema. I'm your host, Lara Gommans. As the erotic industry now serves us mostly 20-second goal-oriented clips, cinema now takes on the role of giving us something the erotic industry used to serve, the actual experience of desire. A film can make you feel more intimate with a body you never see undressed than pornography can with one that you see entirely. I wouldn't say cinema is competing with the erotic industry, but maybe it's trying to do what the erotic industry no longer bothers to do. Give us a sense of what real intimacy looks like. But is cinema just as manipulative as porn? In today's episode, we talked to BAFTA-nominated director Muriel D'Ansembourg, the writer and director of the new movie Truly Naked, about how the erotic industry and the film industry coexist and influence how we, out in the world, actually experience intimacy. In Muriel's feature Truly Naked, we follow a high schooler, Alec, and his dad, who's an adult entertainer under the name Wade Savage. He lists off chores he's done like any teenage son would to his dad, except the chores are things like, quote-unquote, uploading Angels Go Anal and Niagara Falls Pussy Squirt. It's about a teen who has seen it all when it comes to sex, except real intimacy, until he's paired with a feminist classmate to work on a school project about porn addiction. Here's a clip.
Why would you wear those? You're not on fucking camera.
I'm breaking them in, she must know. But it's not like I expected to be running a race now, was it? The fuck was that?
They think you're a slut. That's not a compliment.
I don't give a fuck what they think. It's taken me a long time to be comfortable with who I am and what I do and what people think of me. Don't try and shame me. Seriously.
Muriel, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
Yeah. I really enjoyed your film. I think it's the most intimate and touching film that also involves a slap fight with dildos.
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily expect that.
I hope you laughed at least at the beginning of that one.
People were definitely laughing, and
Yeah.
I saw it coming. Basically, what happens is they get a big shipment of dildos during the time when this father and son are having an argument, and they get involved in like a big quite intense. It's like starts out kind of like teasing and it gets really intense at some point. And I was like, zooming out, this is an intense emotional moment, but zooming out, they are having a dildo slap fight.
Yeah. No, it starts with humor, but then it becomes about something else. And it changes quite quickly.
So with your movie, what is one thing that you really wanted the audience to take away? What is definitely something you wanted to tell with this story?
I mean, first of all, I want everyone to have their own unique experience, which they will have, and not everyone experiences it the same way. And I've noticed that with the feedback. But one of the things that sort of is important to me is that I believe that it doesn't matter what family you were born into or the upbringing or the situation of your childhood. I think we all really need connection with each other. And it's almost like, the air that we need to survive. For me, I really hope that people can feel that in the film and that they're not completely distracted by the fact that, the backdrop is pornography and they just think this whole film is about pornography. It's really about connection, intimacy, how we long for it, how complicated it is, but also can be very beautiful, but it makes you super vulnerable. So that's one sort of like, I guess that's kind of the heart, really, which is abstract. But if you see the film, I think people understand.
Yeah, it was surprising to me how, the movie starts with quite a graphic, hardcore porn scene, which we discussed a little bit before we started recording, that I saw it in a press screening with a bunch of other journalists, and sometimes there will be movies where it's kind of awkward to watch it with other journalists. Luckily, everyone was sitting quite far spaced out at this one.
Yeah.
But in fact, it is way more of, I would say, a traditional kitchen sink drama about these family relationships. And I read a different interview where he said something like it might as well been at a farm where they kill chickens or something. It's really more about this dynamic between
the father and son, and just also how dependent you are, especially if one of your parents is no longer there and you have one parent left and you're young, and and you grow up in a family where something is very normal. I mean, what they produce is something he has been seeing from a very young age. So it's become completely normal to him.
Yeah.
So for me, it was important to have the audience immediately see what he sees in front of his camera every day, and then we're like oh my god. And then quite quickly you get to actually see the people behind it, and it kind of moves away from the fantasy. It gives you a glimpse into the emotional world of these people. So you can't I don't think you can judge them as easily as you can if you just watch a porn clip or you see an adult performer. So that was interesting to me.
He's quite young, Alec, in the movie. He's a high schooler. Do you remember your first kind of I feel like it's changed so much. And do you remember when you first kind of encountered the adult entertainment industry?
I think I was probably introduced through... Oh, yeah. No, I remember. Yeah. I don't know how old I was. I guess I was probably maybe 14 or something, which is nowadays
by today's
old.
standards.
No, it's, I mean, it's as young as 7, people, it's very, very young now. Yeah, I think I was about 14. It was after school with some mates. Quite a few of them were boys, and one of them, I think they had a video. It was probably still video, or was it DVD? I don't even remember. But anyway, so long ago. Fuck. Yeah, and we were watching it together, and it was kind of, weird because you're suddenly watching it and it's something you're seeing for the first time and you want to be cool about it, but it's a lot and you don't know how to respond. And also I remember, because I was a girl, just thinking, how is this making them feel, and how is that relating to me right now in this room? Yeah. So it was definitely an experience, but it's very innocent. It feels very innocent compared to...
Would that have been, not to but before or after you had your first kiss? Because I feel
that was before. I was very late.
Yeah.
I was very late with my first kiss, and I was just late with relationships.
Because now I feel like nowadays kids are so young when they see things, and we mentioned in the intro as well, they know everything about sex. They see gangbangs, hardcore porn, anal before they even kiss someone in high school, and I think that's such a crazy development.
Yeah, because I remember when I was really young, after my first kiss, just thinking about that first kiss was the most exciting thing in the world, because that was the beginning. And sometimes I think about now, oh, wow, how different it is now once you have experience and you've seen things and done things, and it's just not the same. So that beginning, you'll never fully get back the way it was when you were young. And I think it's a shame when you try to... Because when you're young, you try to figure it out. You can clearly see that the whole world is obsessed by sexuality. We're selling everything with sex. Meanwhile, there's a lot of shame around it. There's a lot of things you're not allowed to do or say. So we're very confused about this topic. So obviously, kids are going to be like, okay, I need to figure this out. And also, I need to know what's happening and what's coming and what I'm supposed to do. So I understand that they, go online and they Google sex. But then, you get first thing you sees anal. You're like, oh, is that sex? Is that what I'm supposed to do? And that, I think that's really tricky.
And that has nothing to do, obviously, with intimacy or how real people have sex.
Yeah.
Would you say your movie is also a little bit of a criticism of the adult entertainment industry, or?
It's not even a criticism towards the adult entertainment industry. It's more towards that we have a very limited exposure to different kinds of intimacy. And I think porn is fine as long as we also have other types of intimacy that you can look up online. Yeah. And there are websites, and there's, for instance, Cindy Gallop is really trying so hard to get the Make Love Not Porn Academy up and running. And it's so hard for her to find support. While it's so important, and I would really recommend parents look that up, because it also teaches you how to talk to your kids, because I think a lot of parents are like, I don't know how to do this. And that's the embarrassment again. And I get it. But I would say it's more, I don't like the industry. I don't like that element. And I think it's a problem with very young kids. It's more the industry. The same way, I'm on Instagram, but it's an industry and it's getting me scrolling the whole night. I'm like, Jesus Christ, 2 hours lost and I'm just hooked.
2 hours is a decent score, girl.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the good nights. No, but I try to.
Yeah, I think it's interesting you mentioned Instagram because I do feel that now when you go to a porn website, because I think my first encounter with seeing porn was late at night on like Dutch television after a movie ends, you suddenly get like a girl with her boobs out and she's like, hey stud, do you want to call me? Or like, but it was so softcore, like only just like a lady and she had bare boobs and you were just like, oh my God, this is the hottest thing I've ever seen in my life. This is sex. This is sexy. Now everything I feel like, you know, the attention economy applies to everywhere on the internet, the news, the social media, but also now porn. So what I notice, and I don't know if you've noticed the same, that like everything's just so goal oriented now. It's like, oh, hey, you want to come? You have 2 minutes?
Yeah, exactly.
Here is like the most hardcore thing you can imagine.
Yeah.
So it also kind of plays with that algorithm and the dopamine and the
absolutely
having to go more and more extreme as well to get off, I even think.
Yeah, and I also found when I was doing a lot of research and I was watching stuff, I also saw how, you know, you get triggered. You see these thumbnails and you're like, oh, that looks weird. Let me just check that out.
Right.
And then you get quite quickly used to stuff. And so, yeah, I think the dopamine hit is really tricky. I think also it depends on how sensitive you are to addiction, certain kinds of addiction. Then it needs to get harder and harder, and so it really depends. It's every person. It's a unique situation for every person.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it is complicated, and then you have a Bonnie Blue. I don't know if you know about her. Yeah,
Familiar. Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, it's these extremes to be seen. Yeah, it's a business. It is a business.
Mm-hmm. The getting more extreme also reminds me of a certain moment in your movie where at some point they need to get more views, more clicks, and they get a huge octopus.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a spoiler. It's quite
everyone
far
seems
into
to
the
be
movie.
writing about it. I'm like, no one's going to experience this anymore because they all know now.
Right,
but,
I'm sorry.
No, it's already out
But like
there.
from a filmmaking perspective, as someone who loves practical effects and animatronics, I loved watching the end credits and seeing that it was an animatronic, or a puppet in a way.
Actually, it was. Yeah, it was. So I really wanted to do it with the real octopus. I thought that would be great for the actors until I found out that the octopus wouldn't survive because it needs water to breathe. So then that made it actually in a way much more complicated. So we had to create this huge, fake octopus made of silicone. It was 65 kilos. It was very cold. It was on Alyssa Savage, on her groin for hours, for days. God. And we tried to crank up the heat in the in the studio. We were all sweating. And she's like, I'm freezing. I'm freezing. But it was very, very difficult to film. And it was also something that I had to think through with the DOP in great detail. I love having a more free camera, and suddenly I had to really think about every shot.
Right.
Which to me
Can't
was like,
show,
yeah, you have to really think about it because we also had visual effects. So there was there were these puppeteers, right, that were moving the tentacles. So it was a room full of people while it looks very almost serene and quiet in that room, and it isn't.
It looks incredible. Like the end result is stunning.
Yeah,
I was wondering the whole time, it's like, I wonder if they actually got, surely not.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
So I think that is still like a great element of that scene. You just mentioned Alyssa Savage. I want to talk a little bit about your casting for the movie because your lead actor is a first timer. It's his debut. And you also have Alyssa Savage, who is an adult entertainment star herself. Yeah. How did you approach casting this movie, trying to find someone who might be from this industry?
I knew that it would definitely benefit the film in many ways. One is that she knows the world from the inside so much better than I do or anyone on set does. Mm-hmm. The way she moves, if she's dressed or undressed, it feels very much the same. I think we're all very aware as soon as we take off our clothes. With her, it feels so natural. And I wanted that natural feel in this film because I wanted us to feel like we're in this family that is used to nudity all the time.
Yeah.
And she does really do that. I mean, you can just sense it with her.
Yeah.
Now, I have to say that Andrew Howard, who plays the father, also did an amazing job with that, because a lot of people actually think that he, in real life, is a porn star. So I'm like, okay, great, an adult entertainer.
Yeah.
So so he did an amazing job, but it's definitely challenging to play something like that, and the nudity is challenging for an actor. But I think she gave so much to this project, and also to me, to understand the world much better, because I could do all the research, and I watched a lot of stuff, and I watched documentaries, and I spoke to porn producers and cameramen, and also people that are porn addicts, like a whole range of people. But I think through her, I got to see even more detailed how that world is, at least for her. Let's put it that way. Yeah. Everyone has their own experience.
Do you think you have to be a good actor to be an adult entertainment actor?
Yeah, it is a performance. It is. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because that's what I thought when I saw her. And I was like, wow, that's incredible. She found this girl who is a quote unquote porn star, but she's also just such a naturalistic, incredible actor. And it really made me wonder, is like, are they two sides of the same coin? Because you also just clock in for work when you do, erotic films. You just clock in for work.
Yeah.
Hi, we're going to have sex right now. And then you have to act that it is the most amazing thing that's ever happened to you.
Yeah. No, for sure. And it's tough. And it's very tough on the body. And But I think with her, I watched a lot of the intros of some of the stuff that she's done that was improvised. And in that, I could already feel that it was so natural, that she had this knack for improvisation, that it felt... She was just someone you wanted to know more about, you know? You have to also... You can see someone's soul and someone's being if you watch someone doing an improv scene. And I just felt like, oh, there's something so unique about her. Something wild, but also gentle. And I think sometimes we underestimate some of these performers. And they could do really great stuff if they got the chance. Because I think now she got the chance to... do things a couple, like she was, we get several takes. That's incredible. We can really work on this. It was for her, that was wonderful. Yeah. And she's great. And I really hope she'll get more work. And I hope she'll get also work that's not related to the adult entertainment industry.
Is that an ambition of her?
I think she likes to do some horror. So.
I want to talk a little bit about the difference between what the erotic industry does and what the cinema industry does, because when I think about sex scenes in porn, they're very different from sex scenes in cinema. I think cinema can really manipulate you in a way where it has the right soundtrack, it has the right lighting and editing, and the satin sheet draped exactly over the parts that need to be covered to pass censorship. And like all of these things. How do you see the difference between those two things when you're creating a movie or when you're watching a movie?
Yeah, I think if you look at my film, one of the things that I really try to do is to show the different types, right? So you can see the porn scenes, which on one hand, they feel like porn, right? They look like porn, they sound like porn. And they have the harsh light, but then there are the more intimate scenes between the boy and the girl, which immediately you start working with different kind of lighting. It's warmer, it's nicer. But that is also still, me creating this. It feels realistic, but it's still not fully realistic, right? It's not a documentary. It's fiction. And that's why I think the interesting thing within the film is these elements where, well, let's say that there's a moment where the two of them get to see something very real about their own sexuality and them together that makes them really realize, like, wait a minute, everything is sort of romanticized, or there's a certain perspective and it's from the outside instead of from what am I really experiencing from the inside. And I think as a filmmaker, what you do try to do is to get people to feel, right? You try to get as close to people, just really relating to the people that they're viewing, but at the same time, it is manipulation. Right?
Yeah.
You're manipulating with the sound, with the color, with all that, and the editing. You're manipulating all the time to make it feel real or not, depending on what you're trying to do. So I think if we look at sensuality, a lot of it, the way we see it on screen, is very closely related to creating a fantasy that we can get lost in. But there are films out there that show us a more raw, more real way of having sex with another person. The clumsiness, the starting, the stopping, all that stuff that you cut out if you want it to be smooth and easy and all that. I think it's just funny that both Hollywood as well as adult entertainment are selling a fantasy. Isn't that interesting? They're so opposite, and we would never put them together. But there is something there.
They have a lot of similarities.
In a strange way. And they would, like, I'm sure Hollywood wouldn't be happy to hear this, but it's true. It is true. It's just very different.
I really enjoyed seeing how you did the sex scenes between the teenagers, basically, because I feel like the type of sex that is heavily underrepresented in Hollywood is, you know, you're trying to figure it out. Your arm's kind of in the way. Oh, can we try it like this? Oh, can you just stop and look at me?
Yeah.
All of those things I would have loved to see when I was a teenager.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, you know, you're figuring it out and maybe it's your first time having sex and you're like, is this what it's supposed to be like? I feel like I should be like Demi Moore and softly moan and,
exactly.
you know, all of these things. And it's like, it is so refreshing to see that in a movie. And I really hope that there will be maybe a little bit of a trend gearing towards that a little bit more in Hollywood. Yeah. I think we saw it in shows like Girls or things like that, where it really shows like the body and not, you know, the satin sheets and the Barry White music and I really like how you did that.
I love that series. Like rewatched it recently and I thought, God, it's still great. You know, it's still great. And it was so refreshing at the time. Yeah. No one had done anything like that. Those sex scenes are incredible. And her body was incredible. And she was so, speaking of being free in your body, she has that freedom that you also see with Alessa Savage, but she doesn't have that body that we all think, well, that's easy. And that body, I can also, you know, run around naked. No, she's who I love her, and it has an edge as well, and it's uncomfortable and it's funny, and I think this feeling uncomfortable is something people dread and people are scared of creating because, oh, you know, how is that going to be for an audience? And I think we can be uncomfortable from time to time because life is uncomfortable from time to time. Doesn't mean that it's going to be uncomfortable all the time. So I think that's a nice, you know, good sex doesn't look great.
Yeah. And I also feel like when we're talking about cinema, intimacy doesn't have to be sex.
Yeah.
I think an example that I've brought up more times that I can imagine on this podcast is, for example, the Mr. Darcy hand in Pride and Prejudice. He offers her a hand to get off the carriage and then he goes, oh, you know, like touched her.
Yes.
Or, you know, kind of the leaving out of things, the leaving out of body parts, the leaving out of the actual act. You know, very often sex scenes in Hollywood are, you know, kissing, someone going down, camera fades, and then you fade back when they're like perfectly draped in their beds, hair still perfect, makeup still perfect. Do you think in cinema, leaving things out is actually more erotic than showing them?
I think it's really a choice for what you're trying to say. I think what we feel for someone has a great effect on how it feels to be touched. So even a knee touching another knee underneath the table can bring you into a state that you never thought would happen just by a knee touching another, you know, with clothes on and everything. And I think we all know that feeling. If we're really into someone, every tiny little thing counts, right? And that is beautiful. And I love films that do that. I really do. In my case, it's a different kind of film. We really need to understand what this boy is going through. We need to understand his world. So for me, that didn't work because then you kind of, I don't know, you sugarcoat something and I'm trying to address something. But I you know, Dangerous Liaisons, like all these films are so exciting and it's a different time and and I think there is something you could say almost lost in our time because everything's so explicit and out there and but that's what my film is about as well. Like how can we go back to like really feeling something and doing things slowly and I think maybe we're really missing out by all this explicitness and the way we're used to things being portrayed so in your face, and these little steps can be beautiful and important. But there are films out there that show that, and I love them.
Are there any films touching on sexuality that really had an impact on you when you were younger?
Well, I remember, I think I was like 16 or something when I saw The Accused with Jodie Foster. And I think people kind of maybe forgot about this film, or it's because it's a while back. I think it was 1988 or something. That film was her performance was incredible. The film was super powerful, and it touched on something that I think we're dealing with now, and especially with what's going on in America as well.
Could you give me a really brief premise of what the movie's about?
It's about a young woman. There's a rape in a bar, and there are several men there that are cheering it on.
Oh my God,
yeah. And then the rest of the film is basically between this woman, Jodie Foster, and her lawyer, also a woman. The character of Jodie Foster comes from a certain background, which makes her a complicated witness, and she really fights that she wants to take a stand and be heard, and eventually, I mean, I shouldn't tell the whole story, but it's also about not just putting the rapists, justice towards the rapists, but also the people cheering it on. And I mean, obviously the rape scene is very intense, and I remember reading an interview with Jodie Foster where she said that it was so real and she was so in it that she blacked out and she couldn't remember half of the things that happened. Wow. And you can sense that. You can feel it. And speaking of seeing things and not seeing things, I would have to watch it again because the last time I saw it was a long time ago. I wonder how much you actually see there, because it was a Hollywood production, and in that sense also quite daring. There's this one scene I remember that's so powerful, and I watched just that clip recently, and it brought me to tears again, where she barges into the house of the lawyer who's, has a fancy dinner, and she comes in and she's furious because she wasn't asked to take a stand, and the way she says, I was there with my crotch hanging out, and she does it with such truth, and you can feel all the women that went through this. Yeah. And I think this film is actually very, very important looking at the state of the world right now. So I would urge everyone to see this film.
I think you said something really interesting just now about Jodie Foster experiencing this scene to be so intense that she actually blacked out. I know that you worked with an intimacy coordinator, and that has luckily quickly become the industry standard now to work with an intimacy coordinator. How do you feel that has changed recording intimate scenes?
I think you spend more time really thinking and talking about it. I had to think way more detailed than I ever have about sex scenes. Mm-hmm. Now, this film obviously had quite a few more than I was used to, but nevertheless, you write, they're kissing, and then they move on to the bed, and then you're suddenly asking, but how are they kissing? With tongue, without tongue, where are they touching each other? How are they moving from the bed, from there? Like, super detailed. You're like, oh, Jesus, okay, let me think about that again, because you just think, well, it's going to flow, and then, so I think that was very good for me to have to think about, but also confronting, like, oh, suddenly I have to really, really detailed think about this. And I think because I worked with two young actors, it's very delicate. But I'm a very open director, so I ask vulnerability from my actors. I ask a lot from them in these scenes, but they can ask me anything. Yeah. So I'm also very open in what I share about my own life and experience. So we talk about that as well. So it's a whole journey before you go on set. That said, with an intimacy coordinator, you create this, it's almost like a contract. It's a nudity rider in which you go through every scene that has any type of intimacy. Could even be like that knee touching the other knee, or
hands touching knees.
Yes. And then you go through every detail. How are we going to film this? What are we going to show? And then the actors say, I'm okay with this. I'm not okay with that. I'm okay with you filming you from that side, not from that side. And I remember getting that first nudity rider, and it was like pages and pages. I'm like, oh boy, can we still, am I still free enough to do what I wanted to do? And another thing is that this is like, it's a contract where, there are certain things I can do and certain things I can't do. They give their consent. However, when you're on set, I think reading a script is one thing, then having to do it is another. And suddenly you're with another person and you're actually going through the motions and you're touching each other's body and you're kissing. It's very, very intimate, even though it's, you're on set and there are a lot of people around you. It's still very intimate. And you can still have a feeling like, oh, actually now I'm doing it, it doesn't feel comfortable anymore.
Right.
And that's very complicated for me as a filmmaker, because as a person, I'm like, yeah, I get it. You don't want to do this, don't do it. And then as a filmmaker, I'm like, oh, but then how are we going to, shoot this?
Yeah.
And that's
an important scene.
But it goes both ways. They can still say, no, I don't, I actually don't want to do this. But they can also say, you know what, it's actually fine. We can take this a bit further. And it does
or
go
maybe
both.
they'd feel more comfortable if some people left the room, or
Exactly.
Yeah, because I feel like the one thing that I've always known about sex scenes is that actors always says like, listen, it's not sexy at all, because there's like a sound guy with a boom hanging over your head, and it's all very choreographed. But I am really happy that intimacy coordinators have become such a thing, so that at least everyone on set feels comfortable, and this Jodie Foster thing doesn't happen to anyone anymore.
Exactly. And I think just a lot of things went wrong there. People made major mistakes, and that's why this happened, which is good. And I think most actors are happy with it. Some don't. They don't really want it. It really depends. I know actors that would prefer not to have an intimacy coordinator. But it really depends. But I think it's good to have. And also for me as a director, I realized that I'm very open, and I think that, people can be honest, but in the end, I am someone in power because I'm the director, and they will want to do a good job, and maybe they will go further than they want to. And you're just not aware of that as a director. You just think, oh, but I'm so, it's also, we can talk about this, but it's good that there's someone else they can talk to and be honest about it.
So a while ago, we did an episode on where have all the sex scenes gone. we did notice in that time that a lot fewer movies had sex scenes. I feel like maybe, right after we released that episode, it started kind of coming back a little bit. Do you think that is maybe also an influence of the erotic industry being so incredibly accessible now on the internet? And how do you think those two things have influenced each other?
So I don't think sex scenes have disappeared because of that industry. I think it's more that we are now in a time where people are really afraid. There's this cancel culture, and there's a lot, like, you can do the wrong thing. There was the Me Too movement. So I think you have to really think twice why there's a sex scene in your film. It has to be part of the story. It has to have a real reason. You can't just put it in there because it's sexy or cool. I think there is some fear there that people will find it difficult, or there's also people are very outspoken on the internet. So I think maybe some companies are afraid of that, backlashes. Yeah, it's funny because I think in the 70s people said, could you please add another sex scene? And now it's just like, why is there a sex scene in here? Right. It's such a different era. That's fascinating to me. And I think when I started writing my film, which was 2011, that was already a different time from now. 2026, it would have probably been easier to make this film back then than it is now. So things have become definitely, it's funny. I feel like we're in a time where on one hand, it seems like we're all so open and we talk about everything. At the same time, people are super afraid of saying the wrong thing, doing the wrong thing. And you're judged so quickly and so harshly, in one strike and you're out.
And like now everyone has a voice on the internet. So if one influential person's upset, all of a sudden 100,000 people are upset.
Yes.
Because they saw this opinion somewhere.
Yes. And for some things it's good, for certain movements it's good, for other things I sometimes wonder, are we getting all the voices, you know?
Muriel, thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
Truly Naked is now screening in cinemas across the country. Listen to our next episode about The Devil Wears Prada. The sequel's coming out and we can't wait to talk about it. Stay connected with us at Celebrating Cinema and Lab by following at Lab111 on Instagram and Letterboxd. Do you love what we do? Support us by leaving a review on your favorite podcast platform. It really helps us climb the ranks of the podcast charts. This was a Lab 111 production, edited and produced by Elliot Bloom, and co-produced by myself, Laura Gommans. Music comes from Hugo Emertsal, and the artwork is by Studio FFF.